So, in reality, I'm David Drake. I'm a research computer scientist and an author.
I'm River Alexander Song. I'm a time-traveling archaeologist. I may or may not be married to the doctor, and I may or may not have killed him, but I escaped from wherever I'm kept.
I am Pan Bogdari, the planet of New Persia, where we blend both magic and science together in our technology that we have on our planet. In real life, I'm Thomas Oliver, and help run the Cosmic downstairs.
Thank you. So, what do we have here?
Well, shall we start with a single item to start with, and then we can discuss that?
Well, we see 1, 2, is that
Three.
Three.
Five. I see five different.
5 things. 1, 2, 5. 1, 2, 5. Kaboom! Well, we've got this child's game or something like this, and oh, looks slightly stretchy. Well, I'll let you handle that.
It is stretchy, but it does. I don't believe it's a game. I believe it's an appendage, possibly.
Appendage. What possible reason would somebody have a roly ball appendage?
You met the Centaurans?
Maybe some of these things go together.
That's a possibility.
So, other appendage.
I believe I'd seen something similar to this before. The red lines inside are indicative of rivers, and this is a water detecting device on a planet where the blue stone will head towards the edge where there's water, and the red will then turn towards the blue, lighting up planet water.
Did everybody in the crowd see this odd thing that we're looking at?
I think we can probably pass that safely to the crowd. I don't see any lingering possible.
While you're looking at that, I think I know what this is. When you're talking about, I'll just call them alien cultures to be fair. I know that in some Earth cultures, when you go to the doctor and it's considered impolite to point at your own body, they hand them dolls. You point to the doll. So I think there's probably an alien culture with this exact same shape and this hairdo. And you point to the place on your body where you're feeling pain or whatever it is, the opposite of what they normally feel. And, you know, it just seems to me that makes the most sense. And there's some kind of strange alien writing here.
I beg to differ. I believe it's a scanner of some sort, and it will take readings from the center, and then this will give a readout. No, I've never seen an alien with that hairdo. I've seen a lot.
Well,
I've seen some humans with that hairdo.
Yeah, well, that's true.
My boyfriend wakes up like that.
There have been, I know that some spacefaring cultures and planets and people use a dilithium-based warp drive. And what most people don't realize is that dilithium, as it vibrates, it shatters ever so slightly. So there's a dusting of dilithium dust on the outside, which prevents the energy from being transferred. I have seen nothing like this, but there have been dilithium scrubbers that will go out and scrub the dilithium crystals and collect it in the bottom to improve the warp drive.
We scrub your dilithium so you don't have to... Is that what you're thinking?
I think so.
Yeah.
There's a little man in a robot or something.
Yes. I assume these things must be quite expensive because,
Right.
scrubbing dilithium is...
But you see, I believe it's fiber optic.
I see that.
and therefore it's a transmitter. It might be used with the dilithium crystals,
Right.
but
That makes the most sense.
it might also be a way to realign them.
Perhaps we should allow the audience to take a closer look at the item.
I want to point out on this one that there are these locking screws that hold this in here, as if, I mean, it almost looks like they're permanently locking this ball in here. So I just want to point out, I mean, with all the rest of this, why would you want to capture that blue object in there so tightly? And this lens may be some way to gather light, gather
A focusing lens is what you're
a
saying.
focusing lens, yes.
I want to know about focusing, because it does seem like it moves a bit too much to focus.
Well, maybe it's to avoid them.
I'm still thinking that this needs to attach it to something. That's why I'm still seeing it as possibly a prosthetic for an alien of some sort.
Okay. A lot of alien stuff here.
Well,
We have more of the same. It's like a reproducing bit of acetate. Well, obviously you could put something in there like cookie dough and make a. That's not very anthropomorphic. Maybe it's from some culture that puts a keepsake in here.
maybe it's
These are little.
to hold some sort of a treasure for shipping.
But it's so easily openable.
Well, there's a pair of them, and not all eyes are formed round, as we all know. So this could be for a contact lens. in alien race.
To hold it, or would this be the contact lens itself?
I think this would hold the contact lens inside. A case, and then to apply to their eye, which is uniquely shaped here.
Well, it's probably for a race with a single eye, because it aren't marked left, right, and middle, or any of those other. Actually, maybe these things go together.
That's a possibility.
There's, we have these odd, well, I'll be honest, they feel like glass. But glass dropped from a molten state into water so that they're smooth. I say water only because that's a common thing on Earth. Maybe they've been dropped into some other liquid. But I'll be honest, I just use them for games or throwing at people.
I believe that this is money.
Oh, that could be.
It's actually used on Alpha Metraxis, and the color would denote the value. Thank you. Please select.
So yeah, a denomination of
Uh-huh.
sorts.
The denomination.
And so, rather than going by feel, they maybe use light sensors to determine.
And it changes colors ever so slightly. Perhaps if you have larger credits and it's keyed to the person's bioresonance.
But there's a thin film on the back, and what I've seen elsewhere is usually a quick forehead flashlight, where it would be placed up here, and then it would produce light so you can see at night by. And that would definitely be something. Now I have a feeling these are drained of their potentiality at this time, which is why they won't stick on too much longer than necessary. But it was a phase going through at one point that we had something similar on our planet. It was sort of one of the dancing crazes where people had a flashlight type lighting, blinking dance routine going on. So I think that it's more of a flashlight application.
But if they're drained, is this what they call space junk?
I don't know if they can be recharged or not. You have to look a bit more into it, but it's not exactly what I've seen.
Mhm.
There's something, the salt that's produced by most species in their sweat would be the reactive for the electric charge.
Yes.
And then you could control that a little bit depending on how hard you dance.
Of course, if they're calcium-based species, then that would work at all.
It would not. Which might be the film on the backside, which
Yeah. Well, how about this pen-like object? And I only say pen-like, and we need to do more analysis of this.
This is amazing.
Well, from what I know of earth culture, this could be part of like an eating utensil. That might be useful for jabbing or prodding. There's a lot of things on there that's pretty complicated.
I believe this is a toy for young
Oh.
Gallifreyans. It deals with time. They can use the spring to play with their flubbles, their little six-armed teddy bears.
it is a bit wobbly.
And it is wobbly wobbly. And it can be stuck into their hair or into their coat pocket very easily to take with them. And it's basically for a 47-year-old child.
Well, I think he may be onto something. I think this is half of a pair of eating utensils that is also a musical instrument.
Ah.
And the combined pieces here would then be part radio and part radio receiver, as it were, and musical instrument that would play while you have your dinner. So a dinner and a show type option.
Is it possible that there are dishes where it's not only appearance and flavor, but also the music that's played as you eat it? So texture would affect the music that's actually played.
That could be. This could react to the temperature or the type of.
Would this be your temperature gauge?
Could be.
Well, we'll have to heat it up and find out. I mean, that's part of our job, right?
Yes,
Well,
yes. But someone would have to go out and provide us a meal. And I'd
Yes.
like to experiment with this on a pizza, say, and
Pizza, yes.
see what it comes up with.
It would be good for clearly defining the separation between pieces. I assume there's entire species of aliens that live just on pizza.
Oh, yes.
It is amazing that every race and every culture that I've seen has some sort of flat bread substance that they top with various other.
Something doughy that they put
Usually
other
some
things
other
upon.
species, yeah.
Yes.
Does the audience have any questions or thoughts they'd like
I
to share
think
at this
they're
time?
all thinking pizza.
Now, of course, we're experts, but if you
In
have an
different
opinion
fields.
that differs from ours, we'd
We-
love to hear it.
It certainly would.
It may be the case that, in fact, all of these things are related to each other.
Or if you have questions, see something that we're not.
Rather than having it as an eating utensil, couldn't it be more of a scientific tool?
It could. And matter of fact, the difference between those two is very hard for us archaeologists because really a tool in one person's hand is an eating utensil in another's. So, and the fact that it's got these I think you said it best. It's really for measuring something. You believe temperature. It's probably correct. But it may also measure something else about, for instance, food, like lumpiness, which in certain races, they don't like lumpy food.
But yes, this could be to actually judge the size and density of the lumps.
I mean, there's not much difference between a fork and a tuning fork. So we have that. I still think it's actually fascinating to sit here and watch. You can entertain yourself quite easily.
So
There-
possibly it's nothing more than a child's toy.
Yes, but have you in your own culture given a bit more than just a plain fork or a spoon to a child while they're in a learning phase on how to eat? It is more like a spoon that might be shaped like a airplane or a animal. This could be an advanced culture's version of that, to entertain a child while learning to eat and using their tools correctly. Here comes Mr. Temperature Gauge.
And it says it's too hot
And too lumpy.
and too lumpy. And it's,
Could it possibly be a weapon? You stab it into somebody and the coils.
oh, well,
and that's
anything
the
could be a
electricity
weapon.
source?
Well, if we had a volunteer, we could test this out.
I mean, you could actually do
A remote weapon.
small punctures with this end and larger with this end.
But
Scrape cells.
if we look at, once
DNA
again,
collection?
DNA collection.
here on Earth, it's actually pretty hard, I mean, not trivial, to do major damage by poking someone with something like this. But in certain races on certain planets, which you're very familiar with, having anything this sharp would be considered highly dangerous. Now, on the other hand, I'm sure that certain lizard-like races would consider this absolutely benign. And even though they have hands that grasp, this might be part of a number of things that would be considered perfectly safe.
Oh, I think I know what that is.
Yeah.
That is like a, I think the coil part is perhaps some kind of receiver, like an antenna.
Yeah.
And when you receive, when you put it in your hand, angle it at the right point in the sky. Once it receives the signals, you begin to guide your hand as you write.
So if you put it on, let's say, a wet clay,
Oh,
it would
piece of clay.
actually,
Indeed,
or maybe a wax,
wax. Yes.
it would actually act as a receiver.
Mhm.
It could pick up music, might be a way, sort of a primitive radio type of communication.
Right.
Um,
And that thing pointing up there seems to be some way to orient it towards the proper direction, like perhaps the North Star. With everything at the right angle, the signals are optimized.
You know, one step beyond that is if you went the other direction, if you were to write a message in wet clay
Mhm.
and then drag this instrument over, it would then project it back. And with a sensitive enough receiver elsewhere, perhaps in the sky, on an airship, etc.,
Mhm.
it would then pick up your message. And so you would use these wet clay tablets to be able to communicate both directions. So that's highly probable.
I think it's absolutely brilliant.
It would be like a very large, advanced, what do you call it, the record player.
Yes.
The
Yes.
needle off a record player, because it goes up and down
Phonograph.
like this. Photographs.
Photographs and
You know-
the vinyl.
Could we use the energy that's generated from this?
Now, to be depleted.
You're right,
They're
this is
depleted.
totally depleted. Which explains why they probably let us have them.
Yep,
But you could use this energy to help send
no, it's also pretty much the exact right size to fit inside the middle of this.
I think you're onto something.
So, if I understand my physics, the photons going through there would actually move according to the move of that spiral and would help drive the energy. Kind of solar wind driven communication.
Yes.
Question. going back to the clay tablets, if you're going to use photon energy, why would you be writing in clay tablets?
It could, well, one of the things is that if it is used not just for sending a message, but actually music, there's lots of reasons why we use anarchistic music instruments to be able to create music as opposed to just having it done via digital ways. I mean, there's reasons for that. So maybe there's experts at holding this in just the right way that makes the most beautiful sound as it's either being received or sent.
So it's more or less an antique of its own, not for us,
But for them.
but for them.
And so I can imagine that, for instance, highly sensitive people could sit in an audience and the musician would drag this just the right speed and just the right pressure across. And with the light shining through this, would be able to communicate it to the crowd, who would appreciate it immensely.
Or maybe this takes the musician's visions and projects them to go with the music.
That's unlikely.
Actually, at this point, this could then be a receiver that each
Ah.
person in the audience would have.
And so
And that
there
would
would
vibrate to a certain...
be, which would make sense why it rolls around. You tip it to get certain,
Like the head banging of
yes,
your world. Something similar to that.
yes, to the rhythm. Well,
Circular rhythm, anyway.
normally it takes us much longer to figure these things out. This has been very enlightening.
Yes.
So maybe these are like the business cards of the musicians or something like that. There's a way to capture. Actually, it was the contact lens.
Yes.
You're right.
It's a contact lens.
You could take it and record the entire concert on the contact lens as you're watching.
So perhaps this was the pattern that you followed that would be communicated through this to be able to pass it from there to the receiver. And this must be some sort of cleanup after the activity.
No. I think. Well, that could be.
Or maybe it's an amplifier.
Oh, of course, you hold that to your ear, whatever they call an ear.
Or a speaker. What we would call a speaker that will transmit it further apart.
I think in that case, this would be very much for the audience members to send feedback to.
Oh, yes, yes. Perfect.
And with the optic fibers,
Yes.
they
Yeah.
can communicate
All
back
low, yes.
what they're feeling.
Can you imagine an entire room full of people holding those up, and the interplay of
Of the light.
of the light, and the musicians very carefully holding their, let's call this a
And it dances.
musical scribe. Well, all of that is just lovely. It's too bad these civilizations are probably long gone.
We're not happened yet.
That's right. Well, is there any questions about the things that we have
Comments?
enlightened you about?
Okay, I would like to thank the Seven Deadly Fairies for loaning to us this artifact that has never actually been determined by anyone else. And it will be available for viewing and possible purchase in the dealer's room. And I would like to thank Grey Wolf Designs, another dealer of antiquities, for this marvelous artifact. She has many similar ones down in the dealer's room. And
She just stuck that musical instrument in her hair.
I would like to thank our panel of experts for giving us their insights into this, and the classroom for participating. I think we have some excellent ideas, and will further the study of these objects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's interesting, but okay, let's circle back around and together.
And let's make it all music. And I can want to stick it in here. I just kept thinking, oh, it's the pen, Oh, I guess I should turn off my
Anything
camera.
by lithium scrubber.
Oh, yes.
You're done with the scrubber.